The DJI Nano, DJI's latest mini action camera, vlogging camera, whatever you want to call it. This one's kind of unique because it detaches and now you have this monitor allowing you to be a little bit more discreet with the camera and attach it in really unique places. But how does this new Nano camera compare to the DJI Pocket 3 and the Action 5 Pro? In today's video, I'm going to do a deep dive comparing the Nano to the Pocket 3 and the Action 5 Pro. We'll do an image quality test and I'll talk about all the pros and cons of the new DJI Nano. Where does this camera actually sit in DJI's lineup? And should you buy one? Let's dive in. So right now I am recording on a DJI Pocket 3, which is one of my favorite cameras for vlogging and just a travel companion. And I'm also recording on a new DJI Nano. They're both very different. I'm sure you guys can tell the difference already. The Pocket 3 has a different focal length, whereas the DJI Nano has a wider focal length, very similar to the Action 5 Pro, giving you kind of that action camera look. Now, they both have DJI's image and D-Log, and they're both loaded with a ton of features, but there are some clear differences. So I did want to start off by saying, obviously this video is not sponsored. I've been working on this review for a while. I've actually had the Nano for a long time, and I've been fighting the urge to just release a video and compete with all the other YouTube platforms out there and just try to get my video into the algorithm. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to spend some time really getting to know this camera and give you guys an honest look, an honest perspective. So this is not a sponsored video, obviously. This is my perspective. Now let's start the video off by talking about the package that I got and doing an unboxing. Just like any other DJI product, the Nano comes well packaged. Now, I did get this really early on in the US where it was already sold out and I just happened to get one of the last ones, but I think I got the regular package. It came with the necklace, the magnet attachment, the hat attachment so you can wear it on your baseball cap, and then the suction cup. And that was kind of everything that I personally needed, and it was good enough for me because I already own a lot of the DJI gear anyways. I did get a mic mini specifically for the Nano. I'm only using the mic mini with my Nano because I figured, hey, they're all small, let's keep everything into like a really nice small package. So for today's talking head, I'm gonna be using the mic 2, which came with my DJI Pocket 3. Out of all the attachments, I was probably most excited about the suction cup. And I also really like the necklace attachment because I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff when I'm shooting on my paid production shoots. And I like that like first person aspect. So those were the two things I was most excited about. The baseball cap and magnet, it kind of does both, right? It's the baseball cap attachment, but it's also the magnet for the necklace is also really good. I'm actually using it right now to keep the camera propped up. Now, the suction cup hasn't been that great. It has fallen a couple times. The camera has fallen to the ground and I was like certain I cracked the screen or the lens or something like that, but it actually was okay. And then furthermore, the magnets on the actual camera itself are kind of weak, and also the magnet on the baseball cap. You have to get a really good surface. To give you guys kind of a comparison, the rig that I'm using right now for the Pocket 3, that thing is rock solid. The magnet that comes from that's an aftermarket attachment. I can attach it anywhere and it's fine. With the Nano, as long as I have a good surface, it's okay, but I don't entirely trust it. So the suction cup, for example, you really need to like wet it and make sure you're on a nice flat surface with, without any crud or anything like that on it. Otherwise, there's always that risk that the camera's gonna come crashing to the floor, especially if you have the screen attached to it. If it's just the camera itself, it's a lot lighter, but with the screen, things get a little hairy. So let's kind of do a little vlogging test between the two cameras. I guess you can say this is kind of a vlogging test. But this is what it looks like when you're using the Nano and the Pocket 3. The Pocket 3 obviously has a gimbal, so things are going to be much different. But the Nano has digital stabilization. So as far as vlogging goes, I do think they're pretty comparable. I mean, they both do a really good job. It all depends on what you are personally looking for. Now, obviously this is a compact camera that can be detached and put in very unique places. So how's the app? It's the same exact app that the Pocket 3 and Action 5 use. I believe it's called the Mimo app. And it has all the great features that we're all used to, like live view. So it's really easy to put this camera in unique places. The app works flawlessly. If you are a social media content creator where you're gonna be frequently doing live, events, or you're gonna be shooting and posting directly to Instagram and TikTok and things like that, you're gonna love this camera. You're gonna love the entire DJI ecosystem. So that's probably the biggest pro of this camera, is the fact that it's so tiny and it detaches so you can literally wear it or place it anywhere. I mean, look how tiny this thing is. It's incredibly discreet. I mean, putting it next to the mic 2, it's almost the exact same size. So what about daytime footage? I did want to compare the 3 cameras together, the Pocket 3, the Nano, and the Action 5 Pro. There was one particular day that was super cloudy, it looked absolutely beautiful, and I thought it was the perfect time to just give you guys an idea of daytime footage, kind of capturing a dynamic range. I mean, after all, they all shoot in D-Log profile, and D-Log will give you a little bit more flexibility in post. It's going to give you a little bit more of the colors and more of the dynamic range. It's going to push the camera to its absolute limits, to its absolute best. And that day in particular, everything was just colorful and vibrant. And you can see that the Nano, I mean, all 3 of them are very comparable to each other, and they're doing a great job in daylight. Absolutely. But the Pocket 3 to me still has a bit more zest, a bit more flavor. It definitely does remind me a little bit more of a mirrorless camera. And I think that has a lot to do with the focal range. The Pocket 3, if you're not using the wide angle adapter, I think it has a 28mm focal length equivalent, which gives you a little bit more punch, right? So that does add a little bit more character. Whereas the Nano and the Action 5 Pro were very similar to each other because they have that wide angle look. They have that action camera look. Now, yes, you can punch in and post, but you can't change the distortion. The way it distorts your face, your body, your features, and so forth, that's something you can't quite fix. So although you can manipulate the footage in post, you can't necessarily get away from that action camera look. And of course, there's caveats. There's always caveats to everything. And these 3 cameras do have an Achilles heel, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I think footage-wise, at least in daylight, it's pretty darn good. Okay, so what about image stabilization? That's obviously a big deal, right? These are little cameras, and some of them are going to be used for action events. So obviously the DJI Pocket 3 has a gimbal. That's its stabilization system. It has a mechanical stabilization system. The DJI Nano and the Action 5 Pro, on the other hand, have digital stabilization. And this is what the Nano looks like. So that was shot in 24p, and it's on the standard stabilization. I mean, it's pretty darn good, right? But this would also be a good time to check out that slow motion feature. What do you guys think? So I'm gonna do the same thing, but now we're gonna shoot at 60 frames per second.
Something else to consider with the Nano is there is a bit of lens wobble when using the stabilization. Now, it can get really bad, so you do have to be mindful of your settings ahead of time and anticipate it. I'm still kind of trying to learn it. I remember the Action 5 Pro had a similar issue, and then they released a firmware update which fixed it. But yeah, there's times when it can absolutely ruin your footage, even when just simply walking around and wearing the necklace for a first-person view.
So we have talked about the daylight image quality, daylight performance, but how's the low light performance? I know a lot of you are going to be really curious. We all know that the Pocket 3 actually surprised everybody with its low light performance, and the action cameras, in particular the Action 5 Pro, their low light performance has been getting really, really good. Now, I don't know what's going on in the background. Maybe it's something that DJI is processing, right, in the software to enhance the low light performance, or if the sensors are just that good. The low light performance on the Nano is really good. I would say equivalent to the Action 5 Pro. So if you're happy with the Action 5 Pro's low light performance, you're gonna love the Nano's low light performance. In particular, during Halloween, we went to a pumpkin patch with the kids, and I used the Action 5 Pro, the Pocket 3, and the Nano in different situations. We got there during daylight and stayed until late in the night, and the footage looks really good. Now, I did notice some weird things going on with all three cameras, but when you put them in the nighttime mode or super low light mode, or I forget what they call it, sometimes the image can look really over processed, really artificial. I like to personally just control it in the camera settings. I think if you want to get the best out of these cameras, this kind of goes with any camera you get, you really should learn how to use it in the manual settings. Don't let the camera go on auto and take over, because it's not going to make the right calls and your image is definitely going to suffer. So what about subject tracking? Well, on the Pocket 3, it's really easy. It has a mechanical gimbal, and the gimbal does a great job of following you around. So if you want to give that illusion of having a bigger production value, the Pocket 3 does a great job and it looks really good. With the Nano, it was really hard to find subject tracking. Actually, there is no subject tracking. Now for the Action 5 Pro, it actually puts you in vertical mode, for example. So there are some trade-offs, but I think subject tracking, hands down, the Pocket 3 just does a fantastic job. Okay, so what are the strengths and weaknesses of the DJI Nano and all the other cameras? I mean, look, for the DJI Nano, it is a very unique camera that gives a great perspective. I love that it's modular. I love that it's tiny. You can truly put it in great places and get very unique shots. The Pocket 3 has the most cinematic, mirrorless camera look, and it has a mechanical gimbal that also has its pros and cons. The Action 5 Pro, very rugged, definitely the camera to get if you're gonna be doing a lot of action style things and you need ultimate weather protection. So although it's very modular and the camera itself is very tiny, and I'll be honest with you, that's really why I bought it, so I can put it in unique places, and the image quality is very good, don't get me wrong, but remember that Achilles heel that I talked about with all three cameras? Well, they all get very mushy and they all get very soft, and the image just disintegrates very quickly when they don't have enough light. No surprise, right? So, for example, I've taken this thing out and used it in some of my cooking videos. I have another channel where I, specifically do cooking related videos and review gear and things like that. And I thought it'd be really cool to get a different perspective, right? Put this in unique places and so forth. It was a controlled environment, definitely a moody environment, but I had lights and all that good stuff. And what would have worked on my Sony a7S III, which is a full-size mirrorless camera, did not with the DJI Nano. You can see that the image quality is kind of mushy and it definitely deteriorates pretty quickly. So you need ample amount of lights with all three of these cameras. The money that you're saving by not getting a mirrorless camera, use that money to get good lighting, powerful lights. So a few things I forgot to mention that I want to talk about. Battery life. With the DJI OSMO Nano, it's considerably more noticeable when you're draining, right? You do notice that the battery life isn't as great as even the Pocket 3, and especially the Action 5 Pro. So the Pocket 3 has an extension, right? And I feel like it does add quite a bit of battery life to it. But hands down, if you're looking for the most battery life, the Action 5 Pro has it because the batteries are swappable, right? And the package that I got came with 3 additional batteries, and you can buy more. I'm never worried about battery life with the Action 5 Pro. And if you have like a power bank or something like that, you can get a quick charge out of it. I think 2 minutes will get you a certain amount of time, but just know that you're gonna have to charge it throughout the day. Now, the other thing I wanna talk about is weather sealing. So this thing isn't created equal. The camera itself has really good weather sealing. I think you can go down to like 10 meters or whatever it is, right? No issues here. However, as soon as you attach the monitor or the viewing base, this thing is only splash proof, right? And even that I would, be cautious about. So would you want to be caught out in the rain with this entire thing? No. If you're looking for the ultimate weatherproofing, the Action 5 Pro, again, is probably the camera for you. The other thing that I noticed, this is kind of a big con, but I bought the DJI mini mic, and I noticed that if you're connected via Bluetooth to the DJI mini mic, as soon as you separate, it says you can't use a Bluetooth microphone and detach it from its base or its screen and use it for what it's really designed to be used for, to put it in unique places. So if you are going to be shooting a talking head and you want to get different aspects and cool, unique, shots, got to be connected. And the orientation of how you connect matters when you're downloading footage and things like that. So just be aware of that. There's some limitations there. Maybe it'll be fixed in a firmware update. I don't know. If you guys haven't watched it already, I did a full video on the K&F variable ND filter for the Action 5 Pro. I showed you just how important a variable ND filter, any ND filter is, to getting a great cinematic image. This is no different. And if you want to avoid that action camera look, you're going to need one when you're shooting outdoors. So where does this new camera kind of sit in DJI's lineup? I still think the Pocket 3 is the most cinematic, right? I also think it's probably the best companion camera and vlogging camera, capture your family, you know, memories and events, things like that. It's also kind of a good like B camera for YouTubers. I mean, there's a reason why people really like it. The Action 5 Pro is the action camera to get. That thing is rugged, it's weatherproof. If you're looking for an action camera, I would definitely go with the Action 5 Pro. And then the Nano is somewhere in the middle. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to the Action 5 Pro. You can use it in an action setting. I'm sure you'd have to buy a cage and things like that. The biggest selling point is it detaches. I mean, I think this is really focused on like creators that want to be creative, but kind of want to set it and forget it, right? Going back to the image quality, they're all pretty much similar to each other. This one's very equivalent to the Action 5 Pro. Honestly, I think you could probably get away with having one over the other depending on your specific needs. If you really need the weatherproofing and the ruggedness, then go with the Action 5 Pro. If you don't, and you're primarily looking to just get like unique shots, film yourself, this may be the one for you. But if you're looking to kind of, I don't know, replace a mirrorless camera or save up for a mirrorless camera and you want to get the most, right? The most image quality and mimic that mirrorless camera look, then the Pocket 3 is still very much a great companion camera. That's it for me, guys. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, please consider subscribing and joining our channel memberships. I'll catch you in the next video.